So I'm just going to introduce our panelists. So we have Naomi Kirungu, who is lead of partnership at the African Management Institute, and we'll discuss the project Grow Your Business. And we have Alison Naftalin, who is Chief Executive Officer and founder of the NGO Lively Minds, and Dr. Kwabena Tandoh, who is Deputy Director General of Ghana Education Services. So Naomi, I invite you for a few minutes to tell us about the project before we start discussion, and I'll do the same with Alison and Dr. Tandoh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet and Sasha, and happy birthday, J-Pal. It's such an honor to be here. AMI is an abbreviation for the African Management Institute. We are a leading business development support organization in Africa. What does that mean? It means we provide capacity building for SMEs. SMEs in our continent constitute up to 80% of enterprises, and in a country where I'm from, Kenya, 70% of the workforce are employed with SMEs. So what we do is we equip them with really, really practical tools to be able to grow and thrive, because we believe a skilled individual builds a thriving business, and that thriving business then goes ahead and creates jobs. I'm a football fan, and my favorite football team is, of course, our very own Kenyan team called Harambee Stars. But second to that is Barcelona. And my colleague Camille said, Naomi, you're going to France, don't mention the Spain team. So for that purpose, I will talk about the French team, because a lot of those people are our sons. We'll claim them as Africans. And a way I like to illustrate what we do is, let's take Mbappe, for example. A skilled Mbappe will make a winning team, and a winning team will create prosperity for France, right? So in the same way, we think of that as SMEs. We support those teams as businesses, and those entrepreneurs who found those businesses with the skills they need to thrive. And back to that similar example, when you look at Mbappe, he doesn't become skilled by sitting in a classroom and learning about football. He's on the field, training every single day. So our methodology is also similar. We believe that for SMEs, traditional training simply doesn't work in terms of classroom approach. And there are interventions that offer a very high-touch consultancy type approach, which has evidence that it works. However, it's not scalable because it's quite expensive, and we're looking to reach scale. So our methodology blends these two. So we take the management practices that consultancy type interventions have and blend them with really practical learning, and we leverage technology in order to scale. So I'll talk about an RCT in the course of the session today, an RCT that we are conducting in Kenya with a sample size of 1,400 SMEs, and the pilot that you're funding us as FEED to be able to gauge the replicability. Does what work in Anglophone Africa work for Francophone West Africa? So really excited. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't expect Kylian Mbappe to be mentioned during this panel, but I'm glad you did. Alison.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here today. And I'm really happy to talk to you about our experience of going through an innovation fund. We've actually gone through quite a few of them, and so I can really hopefully give you our perspective of going through from pilot to stage 3 funding. So Lively Minds, we're an NGO, and we're seeking to ensure that preschool children, that's children aged 3 to 6, in really deprived rural communities where, in general, households earn less than $2 a day, get the start in life that they need. And we know that that start in life plays such a huge determining part in their success in school and in adult life, and plays such an important role in ending the cycle of poverty. We believe that one of the main barriers preventing these children getting quality care and education is that their parents don't believe that they are capable of providing quality nurturing care. So typically we work with women who have never been to school before and simply don't believe that they are capable. They will say, well, I never went to school, I have no money, how can I help my children to learn and develop? They say, maybe that's the work of the school, but not me. So we developed a behavior change program, really, that involves training rural parents about really simple, cost-free things that they could do to provide basic and practical care and education for their children. So the way the program works is that mothers enroll on a parenting course, and they're taught essentially, as I say, cost-free ways to provide things like how to provide nutritious meals using the resources they have, how to help your children learn even though mum and dad can't read or write. In return, the women form small groups, and for 1 hour a week in these groups, they come and run play groups for all the preschoolers in the community, where they give children the chance to learn and develop skills using play for free. So we started delivering this program ourselves in rural Ghana and Uganda. And then a few years into that, we realized that if we wanted to scale, we would need to basically find a distribution model. We couldn't go ourselves into lots and lots of communities. So we realized, well, hold on a minute, Ghana already has a kindergarten system, and there are already kindergarten teachers in these rural communities. So what if we work with these kindergarten teachers and the education department so that we could train them to deliver the parenting course to the parents, and they can run the play scheme as part of the kindergarten? So we were, at the time, given a Stage 2 grant by actually the Global Innovation Fund, and they also funded an RCT that was conducted by Professor Orazio Attanasio, who I'm sure many of you here know. And fortunately for us, the RCT came back with really great results. So it showed that the program was having very significant positive effects on the children's development and on the parents. So armed with that RCT, we then, the RCT had also been done in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service. So we then approached the Minister of Education, and it was agreed that we would partner with the Minister of Education, the Ministry of Education, and Ghana Education Service to scale the program across the northern half of the country, the most deprived part of the country, to reach 4,000 schools, 4,000 communities. At that stage, then, the program became GES, Lively Minds program. So it shifted out of our orbit, and it became a government-owned program, and our role switched to become the technical advisor, or the technical assistant to government. And I'm very proud to have been given a Stage 3 award, both by USAID and by FID, and we're very, very grateful. And a further RCT is being conducted to look at the effects of the program at scale. So we're around 2 years into the scale up. So we're now in just over 2,000 communities. We've so far trained over 60,000 mothers, reaching 200,000 children. And I should also say we also have a Stage 2 grant with DIV to do a transition to scale in Uganda, where our pathway to scale, there is no kindergarten system in Uganda, so we're looking at how we can scale the program through VHTs, who are a paraprofessional healthcare support service.
Fabulous. Thank you both so much. Naomi and Alison, you're rigorously measuring the impact of your programs has been at the core of your work and at the core of your scale-up approach. I'd love to hear a little bit about just what fostered this kind of evidence-based approach in your organizations, why you chose to take this kind of rigorous approach toward evaluation, and of course, how it's shaping your work now.
Sure. I mean, I think probably the answer is relatively simple. As a social enterprise, we are a single cause organization. We just have the one program. So it was really important to us that if we are busy scaling just a single program, we had to know that it would work. Otherwise, there'd be absolutely no point really to doing what we were doing. So it was really critical that we wanted to know that what we were doing worked, and we wanted really concrete very robust evidence. And when we started applying for the RCT, the PI did say to us, it really might not work, and then that was basically it's sort of game over for you. And I think as we were nearing the results coming out, sort of a lot of our funders sort of started giving us counselling and therapy for what we should do if it came back with negative results. But I think it's absolutely critical. If you're scaling a program, you have to know that there is an evidence base behind it. And I think that without that evidence base, we also wouldn't be able to get the support of government. We also wouldn't be able to get the support of funders. So I think both just from needing to know that it works, but also the practicalities of getting the investment, the support, the buy-in, having an evidence base is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and very similar to Alison, we need to prove that impact works, our impact works, and it works at scale. But to add to what, I won't repeat that, but to add to that, for us, it's also to improve our impact that we are having. I think Michael talked about in his analogy about different markets and some private sectors not going into some markets. For us, the BDS support in terms of SMEs, the market is broken in the sense of SMEs don't trust BDS provision because they've had bad experience in the past, the evidence is shaky, and also their ability to pay is limited. So that makes we can't have a market-driven growth approach. So we need to be able to pull in funding to support that, even as we build trusts for SMEs to trust BDS provision. So we see a blended scaling pathway, and because of that, we must prove impact and prove it vigorously, both for the public funds, but also for the SMEs to see and eventually maybe have a purely market-driven approach.
Thank you. Dr. Tandoh, thank you, first of all, so much for being here. It would be great to hear from you about how the collaboration between GES and Lively Minds started. And from your perspective, how has the kind of evolving role and evolving evidence base, how has that informed kind of the decision to collaborate the way that you've collaborated in scaling up this program?
Well, thank you very much. Just as Alison said, Ghana had the fortunate situation of having KG education as part of our formal education as far back as 1984, so the structures and systems had always been in place. But we still realized that there were barriers that existed, especially in the area of learners who were still not school ready when they came into KG. And we noticed that this contributed especially to quality issues for learners who were enrolling in our schools. We also realized that gaps had been identified in the areas of parental contribution to preparing learners, especially in our rural and northern part of Ghana. And we then, seeing what Lively Minds had been doing in rural Ghana for a number of years, it was a no-brainer because the evidence was clear, and the context and the strength that they could contribute to government systems in providing better preparation through support for parents was very clear. And of course, we're also excited about the scalability of the interventions and that were happening in rural Ghana, which gave us a lot of hope because, as Professor Kramer said, pilots are good, but we were also thinking of the fact that, okay, at what point and which child should not benefit from something that is good? So the scalability became an exciting part for government and for the Ghana Education Service. We also realized that, especially in the northern part of Ghana, we had a lot of NGOs and implementing partners who run a lot of parallel programs. And we saw this as not another parallel program, but rather an institutionalization of what was happening within the Ghana Education Service, which allows us to ensure that at the end of the partnership cycle, whatever was happening is not packed up and put on the shelf, but rather it is institutionalized into how we operate and do things within the Ghana Education Service. Obviously, the data was clear. There was a lot of data showing that, especially for young children, we had about 1 in 5 children that were stunted, and with the work that Lively Minds was doing, especially around nutrition and helping parents to cook more nutritious meals, we knew that it was going to be able to support in terms of reducing stunting before children come into school. We also realized in the data that about 1 in 3 children were not properly or developmentally prepared for early education, whether it is numeracy, literacy, social development, and other areas, and being able to work with parents at home to be able to use very simple means to ensure that their children were going to be better prepared for early childhood education, made it a no-brainer for the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education to say that we wanted to partner and ensure that we scale to support all of our rural communities in the northern part of Ghana.
Maybe one last question, and you can elaborate, each of you, on this one. It's what's next. So, Naomi, you talked about the pilot in Senegal and what you're going to learn a bit from Kenya that could inform this one, if you could tell us more. And Alison and Dr. Tandoh on this scale-up strategy, if you want to also tell us more.
Okay, so for us, in terms of what's next, is really if I could speak a little bit about the RCT that we are doing in Kenya, and I like to use this story to illustrate. So one of our, this graduate from our program, her name is Mercy. She's in Kenya and she runs a printing shop. And Mercy, before she came to our program, was having challenges with her business, and she had taken up a loan from a bank. So we use institutions like banks to source for SMEs at scale. So she was having a conversation with her relationship manager, and this is very popular in Africa, where if you're having a problem with your business, you could easily sell that and maybe immigrate, and those were her options. And the relationship manager told her, look, how about you try this program, and then we come and have a conversation. And after 2 years later, she got really, really practical tools for her business. And as we speak now, she has not only not closed down, but hired more people and improved her revenue. So for us, in terms of the RCT and also the study that we are doing, is just to find out what impact provides the biggest transformation for businesses at a price that is scalable and a price that they can eventually pay for it. So for us, that is what's next, to rigorously prove it through the RCT and the study, and then to be able to really partner with funds like yours to provide these solutions indirectly or also directly as a business.
Well, I will say that for Ghana, currently we have a 5-year partnership agreement with Lively Minds in place that began in 2022 and will run through mid-year 2026. And with that agreement, Lively Minds is providing a lot of support for the Ghana Education Service, especially in the setup of the programs in a very systematic order. As Alison mentioned, our goal is to get to about 4,000 communities or 4,000 schools in about 60 rural districts in the northern part of the country, in about 8 regions out of the 16 administrative regions. We have also worked very hard to ensure that we have a strong governance structure that is in place with very senior officers within the Ministry and Ghana Education Service, including the Director General of the Ghana Education Service himself as a key sponsor to the implementation of the program. Because we are using a systematic approach, every district that is touched, there is a 2-year support system, at which point the district then moves to a sustained phase where it is begin to be implemented directly through our existing systems. In terms of what next, we still have about 90 rural districts that need need funding in order for us to be able to get into those 90 rural districts. And then also supporting expanding a radio program. Lively Minds had been working on a radio program during the COVID period to support parents. And so we want to see how we can continue with that radio program, which will, of course, broadcast to the rural districts, but again, would have a residual effect of parents in the urban communities also having the opportunity to partake or be part of the programs and contribute to the program. We, of course, see what is happening in Ghana as positioning Ghana as a thought leader in ECD, especially in the sub-Saharan region of Ghana. And we see that the experience that is happening in Lively Mind and GES and the expansion can become a model for especially neighboring countries that also need that support. And of course, it reduces the number of children who are less prepared for school.
You said most of what I was going to say. Yes, so firstly, we're looking to expand nationwide in Ghana so that we can reach all rural communities. I think as an organization, we're really interested in using our experience in Ghana sort of as the blueprint that would ideally allow us to expand the program to other countries. So there's sort of looking at where else we can go with this blueprint, but also just how we can share our learnings about, in particular, how to get a program sort of moving from an external intervention to one that's institutionalized. So we're really looking at how we can share our learnings with that, with the sector, how we can share our learnings of how to implement an ECD program and reach the hardest to reach, so how we can start to drive systems change in the sector. And I think our goal particularly is to turn a bit more investment and policy making in the ECD sector away maybe from formal pre-primary provision to looking more closely at parenting interventions that are delivered through government, so a slight paradigm shift there. So yeah, looking at how we can leverage our position to sort of disseminate practices and learnings and challenges as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Alison, Naomi, Dr. Tandoh, thanks so much for being here. We're delighted to be able to work with you and excited to learn alongside you along the way. Thanks so much.
Thank you.